What does it mean to run a financially responsible home inspection business? Well, let's talk about that because this is an incredibly important topic in the residential home inspection space. And it's something that we run into way too often in the coaching that we do with Inspector Empire Builder, where we help companies build, scale, grow, and refine their version of an empire. And so, this is a really, really critical topic, you guys. We go deep into financial education from an entrepreneur perspective and from a responsibility perspective at IEB. And some of the things I see are that companies are running their businesses so financially irresponsible that it would make you cringe if you were to look under the hood and start asking questions, only to find that a lot of your questions don't even have answers. So let's talk about it. First things first, financial responsibility in your small business really starts with you at home. You cannot run a financially responsible business that depends on you to be running it at a very high level if your business has to produce enough money to cover up all of your wasteful spending in your personal life. To give you an example of this, what we see a lot is people having very good busy seasons and then they blow all their money on things like tools or cars or maybe even just frivolous spending in their personal life. And so their business must produce extra income just to cover up their financial woes. This can't be the reality if you're wanting to run a responsible business. Because it starts with you, we need to address that. Good financial responsibility in your home begins with living inside of your means. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that if we spend more money than we make, we're going to be in trouble. If we spend more money than we can predictably make on average over time, also we're going to be in trouble. And so what does this mean? That means you've got to have your house in order. If you want to run a financially responsible business, you've got to be financially responsible at home. And so the same principles will apply in both places. The first one is that you've got to have 3 to 6 months of operating expenses saved. In your household, we would say have about 3 to 6 months of your bills saved in case you break your leg and can't work or something, Lord forbid, happen and you have no income for that period of time. You would then be able to rely on your savings. In your business, it's the same concept. We just call it something different. So, having 3 to 6 months of operating reserves saved in your business means that you have enough money saved to cover all of your fixed and variable expenses for a period of about 3 to 6 months. That way, if you are going through a lull in your market, or maybe you can't work and you're the only person who brings in revenue, you've got enough money to actually cover up those slower seasons or those down market times. Here's why this is so important. Leaders do not make knee jerk reaction decisions. And often, what happens when your bills are mounting and you have no cash in reserve and you are freaking out because your market is slowing rather than picking up and you don't know how long you can make it without bringing in more revenue, we start making fear based decisions. If you have a team, that might look like cutting expenses to the bone, even to the point of letting go of some of your people if things get that bad. If you're a solo, oftentimes what that looks like is now I'm having to judge between working in this job that I've created or maybe going and working for somebody else or maybe getting a part time job. These are real things, things that I hear all the time when we are doing coaching or when I'm doing intake with people as they come into Inspector Empire Builder. These are the actual problems people are dealing with in their life when they're not running their business financially responsible. So if leaders don't make knee jerk reaction sort of decisions, then that means we need to set ourselves up to be able to not have to make decisions in real time when it comes to our money. How do we do that? Well, we sit on a small pile of it so that anytime we need to make a critical decision, we don't have to immediately go make the decision, but we can sit back and say, all right, I've got some time. I don't need to necessarily rush to a conclusion here. That's how leaders operate in divisions. That's how leaders operate in high levels of business. That's how really great leaders operate when they know where they're going, they know what their resources are, and they're attending to them responsibly. And of course, there are all of the obvious things here as well. Most of us in this industry have seasonality. And we don't have the luxury of earning the same amount of money or that it just goes up and to the right every single month of the year. The truth is that most of us have busy months and then slow months. So if we're not preparing in the busy months for the slow months, guess what? We're going to see the trend all around the country that we see, which is that people freak out in the wintertime and they don't know what to do with themselves. They start cutting all their expenses. And then when the busy time comes, they can't take advantage of the busy growing market. And this probably doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. We want you to have a profitable business. We want you to have money that you can reinvest back into your business growth, back into your team. And that means you've got to have profit. If you're not financially responsible, that means you're probably not running with a budget, which means you're probably not as profitable as you could be. That's a big deal, you guys. Oftentimes, we are stumped in business because we don't have the cash we need to take advantage of an opportunity when it comes our way. One small example is when you finally cross that line from using relationship marketing to fill your own capacity. And now you've got to step into things like digital marketing and working with agencies. If you don't have cash in reserve to get that off the ground, it's going to be very expensive. It's going to end up being a very hard decision. Profit is a must in your business. But quick thing, I have observed that most companies, when I ask, what is your profit, don't actually know. They just feel good if there's money in the bank and they feel bad if there's not money in the bank. And so if there's money in the bank, they tend to make certain kinds of decisions that are positive. If there's not money in the bank, they tend to go make a bunch of negative fear-based decisions. I'm telling you, this is the way to avoid all of that roller coaster of emotion and roller coaster of decision making. 3 to 6 months operating reserves, your personal finances are in check. And now the next level is you've got to have a budget. Here's how this looks. This is the framework for making sure that you're running efficiently and that you are responsible with your finances and that you are positioned to grow and refine your company. Step one is to make sure that you are organizing all of your financial data into a P&L, a profit and loss statement. Now, in order to do that, you need to have a very intelligently designed chart of accounts, the thing that categorizes all of your expenses and your income. Once they're categorized correctly, the way that you want them to, or maybe you use a great model like what we use in IEB, the service operations and growth chart of accounts. Once you have that, you then can use your P&L, your profit and loss statement, to look at your financial data on a regular basis and then make good financial decisions. So step one, make sure that you have all that data in one place. Step two, make sure it's organized according to a chart of accounts. Step three, look at it regularly. Now, this is a missing bonus step for most people, which is that you need to reconcile those things at least monthly, is to take a look at all of your expenses, take a look at all of your income, make sure everything on the report is in the right categories and make corrections as needed. That way, when you're looking at the data, you can make good decisions based on good data. Last thing, you cannot operate your business based on the financials that you have right now. That is a losing game. What you've got to do is begin to operate your business with the financials that you want. Okay. Hear me on this. So if you've got a profit and loss statement, you're getting good data, you've got a budget, you've got operating reserves, that means you're operating your business like somebody who actually wants to grow, scale, and refine their business. If you're not doing those things, what you're doing is operating like somebody who is getting a W-2 paycheck. And at a moment's notice, that paycheck could go away and you would not know what your next move is. What I'm talking about is positioning. You've got to position yourself well to stay in the game as long as possible and take advantage of growth opportunities. Okay, that's it for this video. It was an important topic that I just wanted to unpack briefly here on the channel and talk about how to run a business financially responsibly so that you guys are not feeling like you're stuck in the mud in your slow seasons, like you can't reinvest when opportunities come your way, and that your business is actually doing what it's supposed to do, which is helping you pay for the life that you want. It's the only reason to be in business. It's because we're building a life. Until next time, if there's anything we can do here at Inspector Empire Builder to help you grow, scale, or refine your business, feel free to reach out at support@iebcoaching.com or just drop a comment here. We pay attention to those.